It was an ordinary afternoon at a small grocery store in downtown Los Angeles. Most customers hurriedly grabbed their groceries, barely noticing the exhausted cashier behind the counter. To them, she was just another face in the bustling routine of their day. Yet, unbeknownst to everyone, that cashier's world was about to take a dramatic turn. What no one expected was the moment she collapsed, sending shockwaves through the entire store. But what happened next, thanks to one unexpected customer, would not only leave everyone speechless but also change her life forever. Sarah Manning was 25 years old, 6 months pregnant, and juggling 2 jobs to make ends meet. Her life had been a series of challenges, but she refused to give up. With her partner out of the picture and no family to lean on, Sarah worked tirelessly to ensure her unborn child would have a better future. Her mornings started early, often before the sun rose. She would rub her swollen feet, whisper words of encouragement to herself, and tie her apron with a resolve that masked her exhaustion. The grocery store where she worked was always bustling. Shoppers came and went, absorbed in their routines, rarely noticing the tired young woman behind the counter. "Hang in there, Sarah," she muttered under her breath, clutching her back as she forced a weary smile at the next customer in line. By mid-morning, subtle pains crept up her back and legs. She tried stretching between customers, but the relentless pace left her no time to rest. The fluorescent lights above seemed brighter than usual, making her headache worse. She wiped her forehead, trying to focus. Sarah's mind, however, was miles away. She worried about the overdue rent, the baby supplies she hadn't yet bought, and the medical bills looming over her. Between shifts, Sarah would often retreat to her car, the only place she felt she could let her guard down. There, she would scribble numbers in a small notepad, trying to make sense of her dwindling finances. Tears would silently streak her face as she recalculated again and again, searching for a solution that never came. Her evenings were no better. After clocking out of the grocery store, she'd rush to her second job at a nearby diner, where she worked late into the night. The long hours and double shifts were taking a visible toll on her body. Her face grew paler, and her frame thinner, but Sarah's determination kept her going. In her rare moments of solitude, she would place a hand on her growing belly, feeling the soft flutters of her baby's movements. It was these small moments that reminded her why she endured. The soft chime of the bell above the entrance signaled a new customer. In walked a man dressed simply in a black hoodie and jeans. His calm demeanor didn't immediately draw much attention, but a few people whispered as they recognized him. It was Keanu Reeves, the Hollywood star known not just for his movies, but also for his humility and kindness. Keanu grabbed a small basket and began picking out items, a loaf of bread, some pasta, and a bottle of water. He moved through the aisles with an unassuming air, nodding politely to those who passed by. Unbeknownst to him, his presence would soon alter the course of someone's life. As he wandered through the store, he noticed Sarah struggling to stack cans on a high shelf. Her movements were slow, and she winced slightly with each stretch. Pausing for a moment, he approached her. "Need a hand?" he asked, his voice calm and kind. Without waiting for a reply, he reached up and placed the last few cans on the shelf. "Thank you," Sarah said softly, her voice tinged with surprise. "No problem," Keanu replied, offering her a warm smile. "You look like you've had a long day." Sarah nodded, unsure of what else to say. She didn't recognize him, too consumed by her exhaustion to connect the dots. For her, it was just another fleeting moment in a long, grueling day. Little did she know how pivotal this encounter would be. By the time Keanu reached the register, Sarah's energy was nearly depleted. She hadn't eaten since breakfast, having skipped lunch to cover a co-worker's shift. Her vision blurred slightly as she scanned his items, her hands trembling. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Keanu asked, his tone laced with concern. "I'm fine," Sarah replied weakly, forcing a smile. But as she handed him his receipt, her legs buckled beneath her. She crumpled to the floor, her body finally giving out. Gasps erupted from the line of customers as Keanu dropped his bag and rushed to her side. The sound of her hitting the ground silenced the previously bustling store. Kneeling beside her, he checked her pulse and ensured she was still breathing. "Someone get water," he called out, his voice firm yet composed. The store manager appeared, panic etched across his face. "What happened? Is she okay?" "She's dehydrated and overworked," Keanu replied, cradling Sarah's head gently. "She needs medical attention immediately." "Call 911, Keanu instructed a nearby bystander, his tone brooking no argument. He stayed by Sarah's side, speaking to her softly, even though she was barely conscious. "You're going to be okay," he reassured her, holding her hand. Minutes later, paramedics arrived, their presence a flurry of motion and efficiency. They loaded Sarah onto a stretcher, administering fluids and oxygen as they worked. Keanu stayed close, his concern evident. Before she was taken away, he leaned in and whispered, "Don't worry. I'll take care of everything." After the ambulance departed, Keanu approached the store manager. "What's her situation?" he asked, his expression serious. The manager hesitated before admitting that Sarah had been working double shifts for weeks, often skipping breaks. Keanu's jaw tightened, but he remained calm. "She shouldn't have to go through this," he murmured. Keanu didn't stop at ensuring Sarah received medical attention. Quietly, he paid for her hospital bills, instructing the staff to keep his identity private. But his kindness didn't end there. That evening, he visited Sarah in the hospital, bringing a small bouquet of flowers. Sarah was awake but visibly weak. Tears welled up in her eyes when she saw him. "You didn't have to do this," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Of course I did," Keanu replied, his tone gentle. "No one should have to go through what you're facing alone." He handed her an envelope containing a check large enough to cover her rent, baby supplies, and a few months of living expenses. Sarah's hands shook as she opened it, overwhelmed by his generosity. Keanu also contacted a non-profit organization that helped single mothers, arranging for them to reach out to Sarah. Before leaving, he made one simple request: pay it forward when you can. With Keanu's help, Sarah's life began to change. She took time off work to focus on her health and prepare for her baby's arrival. The non-profit he contacted provided her with part-time work and childcare support, giving her a chance to rebuild her life. As weeks turned into months, Sarah grew stronger. She started volunteering at the nonprofit, helping other mothers in need. Her confidence blossomed as she found herself surrounded by a supportive community. One day, while comforting a struggling young mother, Sarah realized just how far she had come. "You're not alone," she told her, squeezing her hand. "We're all here for you." Months later, Sarah gave birth to a healthy baby girl named Hope. On her first birthday, Sarah decided to reach out to Keanu, sending him a heartfelt letter and a photo of her daughter. To her surprise, he responded with a handwritten note. "Dear Sarah, thank you for sharing your joy with me. Hope is a beautiful name for a beautiful child. Remember, kindness multiplies. Pay it forward when you can. With love, Keanu." As Sarah adjusted to her new life, a lingering pain in her heart refused to fade: the absence of her partner, Jake. They had parted ways when she was 3 months pregnant, their relationship crumbling under the weight of financial stress and conflicting priorities. Jake, overwhelmed by the prospect of fatherhood, had disappeared without leaving much explanation. One evening, while volunteering at the nonprofit, Sarah came across an old photograph of them tucked away in one of her journals. In the picture, they were smiling and carefree, their hands intertwined. Tears welled up in her eyes as she wondered if he would ever know their daughter or see the progress she had made. Inspired by Keanu's message of paying it forward, Sarah resolved to seek closure, not for herself, but for her daughter. Sarah contacted an old mutual friend and learned that Jake had moved to San Diego, working odd jobs to support himself. She decided to reach out, sending him a heartfelt letter explaining everything she had been through and inviting him to meet their daughter. "She deserves to know her father," she wrote. Weeks passed without a response, and Sarah began to lose hope. Then, one day, as she was returning home from the nonprofit, she found Jake waiting outside her apartment building. He looked different, thinner, with tired eyes, but there was a vulnerability in his expression that caught her off guard. "I got your letter," he said, his voice quiet. "I didn't know if I should come, but I needed to see you. To see her." Sarah invited him in, her heart pounding with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Hope was asleep in her crib, her tiny hand clutching a stuffed bunny. Jake stared at her for a long time, his eyes glistening with tears. "She's beautiful," he whispered. "I'm sorry I wasn't here." Their conversation that night was raw and emotional. Jake admitted his fears and regrets, while Sarah shared the hardships she had faced alone. They didn't resolve everything, but they agreed to take small steps toward building a co-parenting relationship. For Sarah, it was a leap of faith. For Jake, it was a chance at redemption. Just as Sarah began finding balance, a new challenge threatened to derail her progress. The grocery store where she had once worked announced its sudden closure due to financial struggles, leaving many of her former co-workers unemployed. Among them was her friend Lisa, a single mother of two who was struggling to make ends meet. Sarah, moved by the plight of her community, rallied the nonprofit to step in. Together, they organized a job fair and resource drive, inviting local businesses to participate. It was an ambitious effort, but Sarah's determination inspired everyone around her. The event brought the community together in ways Sarah hadn't anticipated. Former co-workers, struggling neighbors, and local business owners all gathered in support of one another. Keanu, who had kept in touch with Sarah through occasional notes and phone calls, even made a quiet appearance to lend his support. He donated generously to the nonprofit, ensuring that those in need could access essential resources during the transition. The success of the job fair earned Sarah unexpected recognition. The nonprofit invited her to speak at a regional conference on community building, where she shared her journey from hardship to hope. Standing on stage, she felt a wave of nerves but pushed through, focusing on the message she wanted to share. "Kindness changed my life," she began, her voice steady. "It started with a stranger who saw me when I felt invisible, and it grew into a community that lifted me up when I couldn't stand on my own. We all have the power to make a difference, no matter how small it seems." Her speech received a standing ovation, and Sarah was flooded with messages of gratitude and encouragement. Many people shared their own stories of struggle and resilience, creating a ripple effect of inspiration. Buoyed by her newfound confidence, Sarah began to dream bigger. She wanted to create a safe space for single mothers like herself, a place where they could find support, resources, and community. With the help of the nonprofit and a growing network of supporters, she launched a new initiative called Hope Haven, named after her daughter. Hope Haven offered everything from parenting classes and job training to mental health counseling and childcare. It quickly became a beacon of hope for mothers in need, providing them with the tools to build stable and fulfilling lives. Jake, who had been steadily rebuilding his relationship with Sarah and Hope, volunteered to help renovate the building that housed Hope Haven. Working side by side, Sarah and Jake found a new rhythm, one built on mutual respect and shared goals. As Hope Haven grew, word of its impact began to spread. Local news outlets covered Sarah's story, and her journey caught the attention of a national morning show. She was invited to share her story on air, an opportunity she saw as a chance to inspire others. During the interview, the host surprised Sarah by bringing out Keanu Reeves, who had flown in to support her. The audience erupted in applause as Keanu embraced Sarah, visibly moved by how far she had come. "You're incredible," he told her. "I'm so proud of you." The moment was both humbling and surreal for Sarah, who thanked Keanu for being the catalyst for her transformation. "Your kindness changed my life," she said, "and it's inspired me to pay it forward every day." A year later, Hope celebrated her second birthday surrounded by friends, family, and the community that had grown around her mother's vision. Keanu sent a handwritten note and a small gift, a framed photograph of a sunrise accompanied by the words, "New beginnings are always worth the effort." Sarah, now a confident leader and loving mother, reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. She had faced unimaginable hardships, but each challenge had shaped her into the person she was today. Her daughter's laughter echoed through the room, a reminder of the joy and hope that had emerged from the darkest times. As Sarah tucked Hope into bed that night, she thought about the future. She envisioned expanding Hope Haven to reach more communities, collaborating with other nonprofits, and continuing to share her story. Her experiences had taught her that even the smallest acts of kindness could create waves of change. "Good night, my little miracle," she whispered, kissing Hope's forehead. "Tomorrow's another chance to make a difference." In her heart, Sarah knew that her story was far from over. It was a testament to resilience, the power of community, and the belief that even in life's toughest moments, there is always room for hope. Sarah's journey is a powerful reminder that no act of kindness is ever wasted. From a chance encounter with a stranger to building a thriving community, her story demonstrates the extraordinary impact of compassion and resilience. It's proof that when we lift each other up, we create a world where hope and love can flourish. If Sarah's story inspired you, consider how you can make a difference in someone's life. Whether it's through a kind word, a helping hand, or simply being there for someone in need, your actions have the power to create ripples of change. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next story.